2021. Can I get a roll call, please, Mr. Natale?
Absolutely. Mr. Kurtz.
Here.
Mr. Strollo.
Here.
Mr. Natale, I'm here. Mr. Mercado.
Here.
Mr. Bowman. Mr. Dawson. Mr. Dawson's here.
Present.
Okay. Mr. Carderas.
Here.
President Zoom.
Mr. Linder. Mr. Tedisco. I see he's coming on with the audio, so we're going to count him as being here.
Yep.
Okay. Mr. Anderson.
Here.
Ms. Downs.
Here.
And Mr. Selmont. We have a quorum.
Great. Will the Commission and Public please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance
Allegiance to
to the flag of the United States of America,
America.
The flag.
to the republic for which it
United
stands,
States of America.
one nation,
under God,
God,
One
indivisible,
nation,
with liberty and justice for all.
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Number one on our meeting tonight is the Bozzuto's application has been withdrawn. We need to read the letter in that we had.
No, Mr. Chairman, you don't, just note it's been withdrawn. That's fine.
So I'd like to take 2 and 3 together, which is the earth removal billing regrading permit of Nozzle Property, South Main Street, and the special permit application, Nozzle Property, South Main Street. Can we hear the call for that, please?
Absolutely. For all these, the packet information can be found on the town website. So the earth removal filling regrading permit application of Nozzle Properties, South Main Street LLC, care of Anthony J. Fazzone Esquire, Fazzone, Ryan, and Mercuti LLC, 2 Town Center, Cheshire, Connecticut 06410. Waiver request 25.3.2 of subsection 9 under section 25.5. Property located at 944 South Main Street, Cheshire, Connecticut 06410, as generally shown on Assessor's Map number 78, lot number 159 in the C3 zone. And the next one, the special permit application of Nozzle Properties of South Main Street LLC, care of Anthony J. Fazzone Esquire, Fazzone, Ryan, and Mercuti LLC, 2 Town Center, Cheshire, Connecticut 06410, for a coffee shop with a drive-through serve customers and motor vehicles, and a modification of the side yard setback as permitted under Section 32, Schedule B, Item 6A of the Cheshire zoning regulations. Property located at 944 South Main Street, Cheshire, Connecticut 06410, as generally shown on Assessor's Map number 78, lot number 159 in the C3 zone.
Thank you. And representing the applicant tonight?
Yes, Anthony Fazzone, Fazzone, Ryan, and Mercuti, with offices in Cheshire. I'm an attorney. With me tonight is Darren Overton of SLR and Dave Sullivan of SLR. Just briefly, this is a special permit application and not a site plan, and that's because of the fact that there is a proposed drive-through, and also we're looking to hopefully be able to take advantage of a section of Schedule 32B in its footnote 6 that allows what you may consider a jointly owned property, allows you to vary and even if you saw fit to eliminate the setback requirements between the 2 properties. We'll get into the details of that, but we have, I'd like to have Darren go over the site plan.
Good evening, everyone. Darren Overton from SLR Consulting, and as Anthony mentioned, Dave Sullivan, our lead traffic engineer, is also in the meeting tonight, so he'll be available to answer any questions related to the traffic study that we prepared as part of the project. But this overall plan, shows the relationship of not only the former building at 944 South Main Street, which was the China Dragon Buffet. That building has been removed, and in lieu of coming in with this new proposed development. So North is oriented to the left on this plan, and it shows a relationship. To the north is the existing Rite Aid building and other commercial developments that go all the way out to Ginny Hill Road. As you can see on that plan, the properties are all developed contiguously. They're interconnected with access drives and parking lots, looping through from the Route 10 entrance that will serve as the access to this property, all the way through to the connection out to Ginny Hill Road. So abutting this site to the east is the Mill River. To the south is an existing Eversource substation. And then to the west is Route 10, which serves as the frontage for the property. There's existing parking infrastructure that still remains from the former restaurant. The topography for the site is gently sloping. I'm sure most of you have driven by this and are familiar with it. There's about a 5-foot grade change from Route 10 going back to the Mill River. Most of the site drains out to the Mill River directly to the east. There's a catch basin and a small drainage system that actually drains out to Route 10. You can see the gray dashed line just to the north of our building. That's a state drainage discharge that actually drains the collection system off of Route 10 and discharges right behind the property to the Mill River. The site was, mostly developed previously. There's a small wooded portion back along the Mill River to the east. The entire parcel is within the Mill River watershed, which is a public water supply watershed. So as part of the project, we did notify the DPH and Regional Water Authority. There's also a FEMA 100-year floodplain and floodway associated with the Mill River. We have no proposed encroachments within the floodway, but there is some existing infrastructure that's within the floodplain that we are modifying. Floodplain elevation is about 155.5 off of the FEMA maps. There were some wetlands that were flagged as part of the Mill River corridor, and
It's going in and out. My internet connection is low.
the
I can
Wetland Commission has approved this
hear
project.
it. I'm not. Are you muted? No, I'm not.
The proposed development is to build a Starbucks coffee shop of about 2,000 square feet, which is the building in gray that's represented on the plan. There's a drive-through access. We're going to close off one of the curb cuts on Route 10. There's an existing curb cut in the south. Yes, Bill, right in that location. We're going to close that one off. So all of the traffic flowing through the site in and out will come through the traffic signal, loop around the drive-through as Bill is outlining.
Sure.
And it gives us a stacking of the cars around from the south side of the building and through the drive-through, and then aligns them for a smooth exit out towards Route 10. There are 17 parking spaces that are proposed on the property, and there's 8 as part of a shared agreement with the Rite Aid parcel that are adjacent to the north. So there's a total of 25 parking spaces available for this development. And based on the square footage and the zoning regulations for parking, 24 are required. The building coverage is 8.9%, 20% is allowed. Proposed impervious coverage is slightly less than under existing conditions. And as Anthony mentioned, a portion of the drive-through and the canopy for that, there's a small encroachment over that northern setback line, which is part of the common line with the Rite Aid parcel and part of the connection to that development. So this is a blow up that we submitted that shows the 10-foot setback off the property line. We have a small encroachment for the area that juts out of the building to the north for the drive-through window access, about 1.5 feet. And then there's a 5-foot canopy that extends out and covers the drive-through window. There's actually a 3-foot projection that's allowed in the regulations. So it's about a 3.5-foot encroachment that we're accommodating under the section of the regs that Anthony mentioned earlier as part of the combined development, section 32, Schedule B. And that references multiple properties that are maintained as a single project. The stormwater management plan is pretty straightforward, similar to what exists there. We've maintained the watershed out front to the state drainage system, similar to existing. We have a pipe and catch basin system that discharges to the back of the property where the existing state drainage discharge is located. We have water quality in the form of sumps and a hydrodynamic separator. Some of you might remember there was a Chase Bank application that for this property that was brought before the commission back in 2018. Our drainage system is very similar setup to what was proposed as part of that approved project. As part of the notification of the Regional Water Authority, we did receive some comments from them on December 10th, and I did talk to Ron Walters at the Regional Water Authority. And as part of that discussion, we developed a rain garden in back that serves two purposes. It provides additional water quality treatment for runoff from the pavement on the backside of the property before it discharges into the Mill River, and also provides for floodplain compensation as part of the development that's proposed within the floodplain. We do have an ENS plan that's designed as part of this to meet the town and state standards. And I'll close by saying that we have also received comments from the fire department and also the engineering department. I spoke with Mike Kozlowski from the fire department, and they want a fire key box, which the applicant is certainly willing to provide. And then they also wanted a modification to the existing island that exists at the entrance on the Rite Aid parcel. That has a standard 6-inch curb with a tree and some signage. They apparently have had some difficulty maneuvering the fire trucks in here, particularly because they serve these properties from the South Firehouse. So they asked that we modify that island and create a mountable curb there so that they could actually drive over it. And the applicant is willing to accommodate as well. So that takes care of the fire department comments. We did receive engineering comments on December 23rd. We did provide a response letter and revisions to address that. On January 22nd, they issued a second letter with 3 additional comments that the applicant would be willing to accept as a condition of approval.
Chairman, if I may, on those comments, the town engineer, I talked to Don Nolte today, and they confirmed that they're satisfied with the applicant's revisions, and that the outstanding comments from Anchor Engineering, who is our consultant on this project, could be incorporated as conditions under an approval. I'm going to read these letters into the record that Darren mentions. We'll start with the Cheshire Fire Department, if I may. Dated January 6, 2021, subject 944 South Main Street, coffee shop and drive-through. The Cheshire Fire Department has reviewed the above application for the planning and zoning process. We recommend the following common stipulations. One fire department approved emergency key box will be installed and maintained at a location approved by the fire chief or his designee. Number 2, the site is designed as challenging for emergency vehicle access and maneuverability. The applicant shall work with the fire department to provide mountable curbing and reduce size islands to allow safe access and egress of emergency vehicles from the site. And these are comments from Anchor Engineering, again, our consulting engineer on the project, dated January 22nd, 2013. We offer the following comments based on our review. 1, the zone AE floodplain boundary should be shown on the plans based on the flood elevation information available from FEMA, based on the FEMA flood profile for the Mill River. It appears that the 100-year flood elevation for the parcel is approximately 155.5 feet plus or minus. The floodplain analysis should include all fill proposed within the site up to the existing elevation of 155.5. The analysis should also include the existing and proposed volume computations and a minimum of 2 cross sections through the floodplain area showing the existing and proposed sections. 2, the stormwater basin detail includes a 3-to-1 slope, but the grading shown includes 1-to-1 slopes. Please provide the grading and volume computations accordingly. 3, it is recommended that a guide rail system be installed at the driveway edge along the proposed basin and the retaining wall. And again, this is dated January 22nd, 2021, signed by Denise P. Lord, professional engineer from Anchor Engineering. And then comments from the Regional Water Authority, dated December 10th, 2020, RE 944 South Main Street. The Regional Water Authority has reviewed the above reference application. The property has been both the Mill River Aquifer Protection Area and the Mill River Public Water Supply watershed. The applicant is proposing to demolish an existing building and construct a restaurant. The building will be heated with gas, connected to the municipal sanitary sewer system, and served by public water. Stormwater will be directed to a context CDS unit. The Mill River is located to the east of the property. Based on the information submitted, we have the following comments. 1, the erosion sediment control plan appears adequate. 2, existing buildings should be examined for hazardous materials prior to demolition. By the way, it's already been demolished. Mercury switches, fluorescent lights, asbestos, and other universal hazardous and regulated waste should be recycled and disposed of properly by a licensed waste hauler. Demolition materials should be removed from the construction site and disposed of properly. 3, the applicant should consider the use of Japanese Greenland barberry in the planting plan. Barberry is a known invasive having a significant impact on the regeneration and overall health of forests. The use of native species such as winterberry and inkberry instead of non-invasive plants should be encouraged. The redevelopment of the site reduces the impervious surface by 1% to 84%. Stormwater management only includes a contact CDS unit. The property is adjacent to the Mill River. The applicant should examine the use of green infrastructure to reduce stormwater runoff. Roof infiltration, the creation of rain gardens in the landscape areas and previous pavement should be evaluated. 5, the stormwater discharge does not comply with section 19-13B32 of the Public Health Code of the State of Connecticut. The section requires stormwater drainage pipes to discharge at least 100 feet from the edge of an established water course. Section 19-13-B32 of the Public Health Code, the State of Connecticut reads as follows: the design of stormwater drainage facilities shall be such as to minimize soil erosion and maximize absorption of pollutants by the soil. Stormwater drain pipes, except for crossing culverts, shall terminate at least 100 feet from the established water course unless such termination is impractical. The discharge arrangement is so constructed as to dissipate the flow energy in a way that will minimize the possibility of soil erosion, and the Commissioner of Health find that a discharge at a lesser distance is advantageous to stream quality. Special protection shall be taken to protect stream quality during construction. And number 6, fuel storage and hazardous material storage during construction is addressed in General Note 11. Thank you for the opportunity to comment on this application. If you have any questions, please call me at rwalters@rwater.com. Sincerely, Regional Water Authority, signed by Ron Walters, Senior Environmental Analyst. That's it, Mr. Chairman. No other comments on this particular item.
Okay, thank you. You had, Anthony had Dave Sullivan there. I just wondered if there was something is he there for just questions, or did you have something to go
Well,
over?
if you'd like, he can summarize his report. It's been filed. So Dave can go ahead, and as soon as somebody has a question, they can start asking them.
Okay.
Sure. Dave Sullivan from SLR. We did do a traffic impact study. Probably the biggest challenge of doing traffic studies these days is the base data. So we did collect data at the signalized intersection where the access would be provided in COVID conditions. We also found some non-COVID data from DOT and placed a traffic counter at the same location to determine what the differences were in COVID versus non-COVID conditions. Based on that, we increased the morning counts we did by some 23%, and the afternoon counts we increased by, I believe it was 35% or 37%. So those were the adjustments, gave us the base traffic volumes. We then estimated the traffic that's going to be generated. We used ITE. In general, there's round numbers, a couple hundred trips in the morning that'll be visiting the site, and about half of that in the afternoon. And we assign that traffic to the traffic signal with the increased traffic volumes. And we found that the levels of service will not be impacted, and generally good levels of service will be maintained during the peak hours. We looked at the queues. There'll be very little impact on queues, and the maximum queues exiting the driveway was found to be 3 vehicles, which we checked to make sure the circulation at the signal, at the driveway to the signal would work. So that's a thumbnail. I'll be happy to drill down on any particular issue or any questions you may have.
Question, Chairman?
Sure, Mr. Mercado.
So on that traffic study, I went and looked and saw Starbucks has one of the slower response times to getting customers filled, about 4.75 of a minute per car. At your 55 cars per hour, which was in that report, that's about 1.2 cars a minute. So with that, it looks like in the peak hours, if people are coming and going to work and trying to get coffee, that you might get stack up and overflow. Where would that overflow go?
Well, couple things. One, everybody isn't using the drive-through. That's the first point. Generally around around half. I know it's probably a little more in COVID conditions, but in typical conditions, about half the people go. And the 4.5 minutes transaction time, that's the time from when you pull up, you pull to the order board, you make your order, you get yourself to the pay board, you pay, you get your thing, and you leave. Any single one of those operations is really the critical time. So it's not like somebody pulls up to the order board, places their order, drives up, pays, gets their order, leaves, and then they take the next order. So they're taking the orders consistently. So I don't know the exact numbers, but I would say, the 4.5 minutes, probably the critical time is from when you pull up to the order board to when your order is ready. And that might be, a minute and a half, something like that.
Pretty
Because,
close.
the rest of the time, you're sharing that, the rest of the 4.5 minutes.
Because I've seen considerable stack up over on Dunkin' Donuts roughly across the street where it
Mhm.
flows into the parking lot and becomes sort of a nightmare over there. And I worry that that might be the same issue here with less parking spot for people to stack.
Well, we do have a significant amount of stacking, so we're stacking or serving more than what the state would require for Dunkin' Donuts. And a Dunkin' Donuts would typically service about twice as many transactions as Starbucks would. So in the morning at the Dunkin' Donuts, on average, you might get 200 transactions, whereas on a Starbucks, it might be half of that or
Really?
so.
Okay.
So we did take that into account. We have 10 before it even gets anywhere near the parking lot. And if it was to be a heavy drive-through, we have as many as 15 or 16 that could fit on site.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other commission members who have questions?
Yes.
Are we just talking about the traffic pattern or all of it?
I would say all of it. That's
Okay.
all.
So I have a couple more. The design of the building itself, what you guys proposed. I personally don't feel that it fits in this area of Cheshire, maybe something over in the ISS zone. I'd like to see something that's designed more with mansard or hip type roof that fits in. Even the Rite Aid that's right next door has that type of feel. And then you have little roofing on the little plaza. And if you even go over to Pizza Hut, that has some nice roofing, not this new contemporary look. That I'd like to see change. I don't know what other commissioners feel. I just don't feel that that's the fit that we're looking and we're trying to bring into Cheshire, especially in this area. I know I've worked on the gas station down the road to get that to fit, have a better feel. So I just wanted to make that clear that at this point, I don't like the design of this building. I think it needs to come into what we want to feel in that nice village type look into Cheshire. The other quick question is, with the power station or whatever that is right next door, moving that extra 5 feet for that awning, is there any kind of trucks that need to get around there? Is there any easements that they have that might interfere with if they're trying to work on those lines? Because I know they have a lot of room on one side, but I don't know if they have to get on both sides of that little building that's in there. Do we know if that's been cleared through them?
For the record, Darren Overton from Ilona McBroom. We did meet Eversource staff on site. The point of the meeting was to understand where would be preferential to bring service into the new building. We did talk about a desire to potentially, because apparently we can't utilize the existing pole that's between the Rite Aid parcel and this parcel that served the old building. Eversource has new requirements that doesn't allow that to be utilized for this new building. We did look at the substation to the south, and we talked about bringing the service in there. To meet their standards, they can't bring a pole over to the other side that close to the substation. So they made us aware of the requirements for that. And we do have an agreement with them to bring the service in on the similar alignment to the existing building, but then bring it underground from a new pole. So the proposed development does not restrict the access to the substation. Based on our field discussion with Eversource, there's nothing that we're proposing that would impact how they manage or operate that substation.
Good, thank you on that.
Okay, I think I saw Mr. Natale. Actually, Mr. Vizon, did you want to respond to any part of Mr. Mercado's?
Well, I just briefly, dealing with national franchises, Mr. Mercado, they are very, very jealous of their designs, and they make it very difficult for a developer to make changes. You know, we do feel that the design is appropriate. It's certainly a huge improvement over what was there. That's about all I can say with respect to the design.
So, I mean, I work in Shelton, and up there they have a Wendy's, a Starbucks, gas station, a whole bunch of stores. They all look really nice. They have all Manson hip style, looks like a little village, and they have no problems. I don't understand how Starbucks can say, hey, you know, we don't want to fit in the look and feel of your town. You want to come here and fit in. That's what our POCD says. We want it. We want people to come in. I want Starbucks to come here. I just want it to look like it fits into this town. That area is turning to, I'm trying to get away from the bad mistakes we made where we let buildings like this, these contemporary style buildings, look down there. I want to bring it back to Cheshire Village. That's what the people of this town talk to me about. They see me out when I'm shopping and whatever. I have friends. They want that nice look and feel of a little village. I pushed that and brought it up for the little gas station. I'm doing the same thing here, and I hope the rest of my commissioners follow through. I would love Starbucks in here. Just I don't like that design. It does not fit in this town. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Natale, and I think Mr. Tedesco had a question also.
Yep. So as far as the parking goes, I know that you're proposing having 8 parking spots next door to the Rite Aid. What does that do to the required capacity at Rite Aid? Does it affect that at all? Does Rite Aid have an overabundance of parking?
You got a lot of parking out there.
Okay, it's a
Yeah.
lot, but
Yeah,
with the
no,
regs,
you have
you understand.
way more than you'll need, Jeff. Combined they got plenty of parking out there for both facilities. That parking lot is never full. Rite Aid's parking lot is never full.
Okay.
Never close.
I understand that. I just want to make sure that, you know, we're not robbing Peter to pay Paul here.
Mr. Natale and the rest of the commissioners, we did submit an easement agreement between the two property owners, 922 and 944. It has, and so Rite Aid was aware of the fact that those 8 spaces would be shared spaces. And in addition, the regulation does allow for some shared spaces. And in this case, it's anticipated that the peak uses of the parking spaces would be at different hours.
Gotcha.
Starbucks would be in the morning and later in the afternoon.
Okay, and just for clarification, I don't have a problem with the shared parking space. I just wanted to make sure that there was enough parking to support the two businesses. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Tedesco, did you have a question?
Yes, just a couple things. I think while I don't know that I would vote against it for this reason, it seems to me that Mr. Brocato raises a reasonable point. A lot of times we've looked at the design of buildings in this area of Cheshire, and it seems to me that at least perhaps Mr. Vizzoni could go back to the company and see whether they'd be willing to work with some modification that might make it fit in a little bit better with what's there. So I don't think it would make me vote against it, but it seems to me that we have a company now coming into our town, and maybe they should try to work with the town in terms of the appearance of their building. They may say no, but at least I think the effort should be made, and I would support Mr. Brocato's effort to have that, at least have that conversation. On the queuing, which he also referenced, it is really very difficult sometimes to get into, to go to Big Y because of the queuing at Dunkin' Donuts at different times of the day. Here, we're not going to have another business, so I guess the only queuing will affect the Starbucks itself. I mean, Mr. Sullivan, certainly we're not going to have a situation where cars back up to the road, are we? That can't happen with all the space you have. Could you tell us that?
Yes, cars would have to be backed up. There'd have to be 20 or more cars to back up to Route 10. And frankly, I don't know who would wait in a drive-through that long for a cup of coffee. I suppose if they were giving it away for free, you might have that situation. But from a practical standpoint, the state asked us to have 14, and we have probably 20 before we get to the state highway, and 16, 17 of those are on site.
Okay, well, I just think we have to ask that, and
Yep.
I've asked now. Of course, once you're in the line there, it's hard to get out. You may be waiting for a long time, but
Well, there is a bypass. So if you get in line and you're frustrated, you can just pull out of line and exit.
the last question is for Mr. Overton. I think I know the answer already, but I believe you're the applicant seeking a waiver of Section 9 of Section 25.5 of the regulations about. Can you at least confirm to us that the activity proposing would not create a substantial risk of damage to a budding property or to the road or any other property? That's a finding we have to make in order to approve a waiver of Section 9, and I haven't heard anything in the record on that yet.
Mr. Tedesco, if you read Section 9, it actually causes a problem with grading of a road just to match the grading. If the area is a little bit below the elevation of the road and you're grading up to that, I interpret Section 9 as saying you need an earth removal permit to do it. There's no major excavation here. I think Darren may be better qualified to say that, but we primarily do that, and even on subdivision applications when you have to tie into a road. I believe the way that's written, it would apply. And I think Darren can address the issue of whether or not it creates any problem with adjacent properties.
Well, yeah, that's all I'm asking. I mean, it seems to me that don't we have to make that finding? It says, and the commission has determined that such activity would not involve or create a substantial risk of damage to the abutting property. I'm just looking for an engineer to tell us that's not going to happen.
For the record, Darren Overton from SLR. Along the frontage here, we're holding the existing curb line. The DOT had made some improvements in the sidewalk and I believe a pedestrian crossing along the frontage of this property. So the sidewalk is in good shape. It has an integral curb that's right along the street line of this site. So we essentially held the grades there and the catch basin that drains to the DOT system. And it makes sense to do so by maintaining what's there now, what works and functions well, associated with adjacent properties in the state right of way, is to leave it the way it is. And we're working off of those grades and adjusting the site grades as we move back into the site to accommodate the new development. So I believe what we are proposing is not, there's no existing issue that we are aware of. And what we're proposing would not cause any adverse condition for adjacent properties or the state right of way. And
Thank
we
you.
have sent plans to the DOT District 1 office for review as part of this.
Thank you.
One thing I'd like to add about the queuing, and this comes as part of, we've moved through almost a year of this COVID era. I'm sure all of you have experienced the situation where most restaurants and typically, and also a Starbucks, have more online ordering. One thing that many of these commercial or retail or restaurants are doing is actually there's a front pickup window here. So you can do an online order, and I like Starbucks. I've used their app before, and it actually tells you, a time. If you're too far away, you can actually schedule when you pick that up so it's ready. And people can drive up to the front and they don't even have to enter the facility. They can pick up at a front window. They're almost like the drive-through window, but it's a walk up along the front sidewalk, which I believe also helps to cut down on the amount of vehicles going through the drive-through. One benefit of the shared 8 parking spaces with Rite Aid is if someone were to drive in for a pickup, and logically as humans, we want the path of least resistance. So we'd like to drive right up to the front window there and get it. But if the front parking lot were full or the lots were congested, they could pull into those 8 spaces, not actually enter the property with their vehicle, park, and there's a convenient walkway with ADA accessible ramps and a crosswalk across the front of the drive-through lane that gets you right to that walk-up window.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Overton. Ms. Downs, I believe you had a question?
I use that Rite Aid regularly. I'm there 2 or 3 times a week coming from the north going south. And I have a real hard time, even today, I was there around 2 o'clock today. It's very difficult to take a left when you're going south. And even today, before this was in there and with no Dragon Buffet there, it's very hard to cross that traffic on Route 10. And at this point in time, I think it needs a left green arrow. And I don't know if that's something that could be looked at. There's also that little suicide lane in between where you can sometimes go up over it and then take a left. But the angle that you have to take a left at is very difficult, and it doesn't line up directly with the across the street. It's not a square intersection. And so it makes it even harder for me when I'm trying to take a left there. The sight line is difficult and it's hard to turn in there. And I think it's very dangerous. I also want to concur with, I'm drawing a blank here, but I agree with the look. I'm not wild about that look. I realize that that's their look, but again, I think they could maybe consider trying to fit in a little bit more. Also, there was a letter that Mr. Fazzone read from, or no, I'm drawing a blank again, read from, that was from the Water Commission that said, it was dated December 10th. It said something, number 3, about the Japanese greenleaf barberry. The Water Commission had suggested you not use that. And it's still on the current plan with the plantings. Do you know where I'm looking at? I'm not sure who would reference that. It didn't get changed from the recommendations from the Water Commission.
I can answer that. I did speak with Ron Walters at the Regional Water Authority, and we did provide a response letter. although the native species is considered invasive, what we're proposing is a sterile plant that doesn't reproduce. So because of that, there is no issue. What we're proposing is not an invasive plant. So Ron said that was acceptable.
You can't do better than that?
His concern was that it was invasive.
Right. It's a plant that people would like to get rid of all the way around. But I guess my main concern is taking the left. And so I'll get back to that. I had three things, the traffic, the building, and then the plantings, but also in the section 32, where it says in considering such a change, the commission shall be guided by the following: traffic circulation and access management, including the location, amount, and access to parking, traffic load, or possible circulation problem on existing streets. If I can't take a left now, I can't see that it's going to get any better unless something's done to make that entrance bigger. Because when you're trying to swing around, it's kind of like you're taking that left and you're taking your life in your hands with the traffic coming north. Is it possible to get a traffic light with a left green? I mean, a turn where so you can take a left?
Hi, Dave Sullivan, SLR. We can discuss that with DOT, but if it's not quite that simple to just add a couple of signal heads and a couple of arrows to it.
No, I know it's not simple, but that's why I'm asking you now before it progresses further down, because I see it as a major blocking point.
Well, we will discuss with them, see if that signal's up for upgrades or anything like that, and if that would be something they would consider. They do have the left turn lane, and they run left turns either what they call protected with the arrows, which they have in the northbound direction, presumably because of the volume of traffic, and they have permitted in the southbound direction. I will say that in the morning, the volumes are a little bit lower when the volumes entering are a little bit higher. And again, much of the coffee business comes from the near side direction. However, I could understand about the left turn arrow, and we will have the discussion with DOT, but it's not something that could practically be done, for any reasonable cost. You're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe, depending on the vintage of the rest of the equipment. So it would have to be done as part of a statewide upgrade of signalization or something like that.
So they're upgrading all the wires to the poles. Does that come all the way down south? Do we know? Because I know they've done on the north end by me. They're taking out all wires and putting in those poles that can swing out of the way. And I don't know, is that coming, is that all of Route 10?
You're good boy. Lay down, lay down, go down.
I don't know personally.
I'm a little confused. Are you referring to an arrow that would be if you were headed south on 10 to turn left into the place, or was it?
Yes.
Yes.
I can't get in there. That's what I'm saying. When I go in there, it's hard to take a left into that spot because it's also a sharp turn. It's really a right angle. There's no where you're kind of swinging around. It's pretty sharp. And it doesn't line up directly across the street.
Well, if I may add, the sharpness, I think, is to go over to Rite Aid after you enter. The intersection itself is pretty much 90 degrees. So it may feel like that because after you enter the driveway, if you're going to that parking area in front of Rite Aid, you're making kind of like an extended left turn.
But isn't that where people are going to be stacking up?
Well, the stacking up for the drive-through, once you take your left turn, you'll take a right turn into the Starbucks. So you'll just slip right into the Starbucks and never get to that point of Rite Aid, and just flow in a counterclockwise direction around the Starbucks. There's plenty of parking if you want to park and walk up, as Darren suggested, or if you want to stay in your car and go through the drive-through. And then when you exit, you're exiting in the corner of the property where you're sitting at the top of the intersection with visibility to see if there's vehicles in front of you. And we expect
Right.
there won't be.
I'm not as worried about the people getting out of Starbucks. I just know currently there's a fence there, like a chain link fence that's, around all the dirt and the area.
Construction, correct.
You almost hit it when you go in there because the width, oh, sorry, I'm pointing at the screen, but
Sorry, yeah.
the width of that, like I'm looking at it on my own, is very narrow. So when someone's pulling out of Rite Aid, there's a little raised area there. You have to get in there very straight, and it's harder to do than it might look. I don't know if anyone else uses it. I'm in there all the time, and it's not easy. So then you're going to be trying to get in there. Someone's going to be trying to take a right to get into their stack up, and I just think it's just going to be all stacked up all over Route 10. I don't think it fits in with the traffic circulation, and I just think it's gonna be stacked up down on South Main Street.
I mean, there's a left turn lane, just no left turn light.
Correct.
Right, but you're just sort of sitting there in kind of no man's land, and then the people start coming out of the other side and they're pulling around. There just isn't a lot of room there.
Well, I might suggest that, in terms of being able to take a left turn off of Route 10, other than having the left turn arrow, which does exist on some of the signalized intersections, having a left turn lane in a signal of any kind is one of the better conditions along Route 10.
Right.
I understand your frustration. We will be happy to, report back and let you know if DOT has anything planned there. But we do run our turning templates. It might be a little intimidating with the fence up there now. That fence will be gone. The island will also be less intimidating because it won't have tree planted on it. It won't have the hard angled curbs. So we'll feel a little bit freer that way as well. Sometimes the perception of lateral obstructions does pinch you a little bit as well psychologically. So I can understand certainly, your feeling as you make that movement. And we'll discuss it with DOT certainly.
Okay.
But, I don't want to make any kind of promises that they'll be doing anything in the near term, I guess.
I just would like to add that we can't lose sight of the fact that this is a commercial piece of property with another curb cut. I don't know how many feet to the south it exists, and that whatever entity were to go in there would be entitled to that curb cut. But by combining these and putting them, putting the driveways as combined and at the same light, it seems to me that is a better situation than having another curb cut coming out of this existing property, making rights or left-hand turns. There's no signal there to help them. And Dave, you're the expert, but I think there's a lot to be said about the fact that they're combining combining driveways at the light.
Well put.
Hearing that, I just have a question. Was there any consideration at all done or thought about a possible right turn only if you're headed north on Route 10? Don't take away that existing curb cut that's there now.
We
So
did.
if you're headed north on Route 10 and you were maybe even like a drive-through only access where it might eliminate some of the traffic in the area that she's thinking of, that Ms. Downs was talking.
We did. We looked at a lot of potential options. The problem we had with that one is it kind of bifurcated the parking and put a potential conflict point right at the back side of where we wanted to make sure we had adequate queuing. So you would have an area where people would be coming in if they were coming southbound coming across that front aisle. Plus you would have people coming in with a free flow right turn. And we thought it was better if we consolidated all the movements since they're not affecting the traffic light in terms of operations, consolidate them, have them all come in the same way and flow in a more organized fashion.
Okay. Any other commission members? Questions? Okay.
I would just like to ask a question. Are there any questions about the way that the regulation, the footnote 6 works and what it allows the commission to do? And the items in my letter that I said seem to fit in with this and to meet the requirements that you have to consider under the regulation.
I have none. Any other commission members have any questions with that?
No, I think the staff analysis did the staff did a good job summarizing for us.
Wow. Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, they did an okay job.
It was, yeah, right. It wasn't too hard to read. I got it. Thank you. Yeah.
I told Bill he did a better job than I did. I gave him that credit when he told me he wanted me to write this. I said, there's nothing left to be said.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. Darren and I have had several lengthy conversations about the measurements of the overhang and what the extent of that is. And I haven't told him this, but I finally agree with him that what the encroachment is actually, well, it's 6.5 feet, but 3 of those feet are by matter of right by another section of the regulations. So we're asking for the 3.5 feet, and that still leaves you 8.5 feet from the existing property line.
Okay. Public, do we have any public comments on this application?
You
No
got
public
anything?
comments.
I have one, Mr. Chairman,
Okay.
dated January 11th, 2021, RE special permit application, Nozzle Property, South Main Street LLC, 944 South Main Street, coffee shop and drive-through. Dear Mr. Volker, I'm writing to express my opposition to the above application. Cheshire is fortunate to have several excellent locally owned coffee shops, as well as 3 Dunkin' Donut franchises, several of which are in the area south of the town center. Particularly in the current crisis, these local businesses need and should expect the support of our citizens. Per the Cheshire Planning Regulations, Article 40.4.2, in considering a special permit application, commission shall take into account where appropriate the proximity of same or similar use which would unduly concentrate types of use in a particular zone or vicinity in zone, emphasis added. In my opinion, this application would create such a concentration and should therefore be rejected. Respectfully submitted, Martin E. Coburn. That's it, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Rizzo, with the thought of maybe going back to the Starbucks people and the thought of, I don't know about the arrow on Route 10, if that's something, I don't see that being done pretty quick, but it's still, there could be an ask. Were you prepared to close this public hearing tonight, or would you like to keep it open and maybe get some answers to some
We
questions?
had hoped to close the public hearing this evening. I get beauty's in the eye of the beholder, and I think that this building being immediately adjacent to the power station, which has been there forever and probably going to be there forever. I happen to think that it's my own personal opinion, that it is consistent with buildings in the neighborhood. It's certainly not a village look. I agree with Mr. Bricato about that. You know, the whole shopping centers down there all have flat roofs. But if the commission wants us to go back, you know, the developer's going to be disappointed, but we can go back and see what they want to do.
How does the commission feel on what Mr. Vazone said? I mean, the other answer is to close the public hearing and have a vote, and he might be really upset too with the outcome of the vote too. I don't know how everyone feels.
No, I understand
Right.
that.
If anybody else wants to chime in here, that would be great. Mr. Strollo.
I think that we should at least leave it open for one more meeting and just try to see if the developer would give us some alternative style building. And I mean, just to see if they have that. If they don't want to do that, then we close on the next public hearing. You know, I mean, we're only asking for one. I think as a commission member, you'd have, you know, 3 people that are disagreeing, and I think that that's enough to keep it open one more meeting. One more meeting isn't going to hurt anybody, you know? I mean, they're not going to start, you know, I think one more meeting we could go, but that's my opinion.
Mr.
I
Bricato.
think
Has this been put, the images of this building been put in the paper? Has our town folk seen this to, besides watching this YouTube video, to make comments to see what they want? Because from what I hear, you know, they don't want this type of building. So I'd like them to have some input and actually see some pictures of it. So I'm hoping someone in the Herald or the Record Journal, or whatever, will publish these pictures, and hopefully the town folks, if they have any issues, will come to the next public hearing and speak up.
yeah, you certainly don't need our permission for the extension. We aren't that
Yeah.
far into the process.
Yeah, I understand. A question I would have is Mr. Bricato brought up the fact that in Shelton, there was a different design. Do you know, are there other designs that they have put out there? I'm not a big Starbucks guy, so I'm not really familiar with them. I don't frequent them, but I was just curious if they did have another design or a few different designs that they would propose for situations like this.
I don't know about this particular situation. I do know that they go into buildings that aren't standalone like this is, and they certainly, you know, would look, they could be in a villagey type of store grouping. So I'm sure that they, you know, I don't know about freestanding when they're, you know, built to suit, and that's something we can certainly find out.
Okay, so with that, then I think the decision is made that we will keep it open to the next public hearing to see if maybe we could get an answer on other designs of buildings, or, you know, it could stand on its own too. I'm not saying what their answer is going to be, but we can certainly wait and find out. And so we will be leaving the public hearing open unless there's more comment tonight.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Cadesso?
Cardaris.
There, sorry.
That's all right. I think we're getting a bit far out of our jurisdiction as commission members. I mean, we can make suggestions to them, but in terms of micromanaging how a building is designed, if it's not in, the requirements aren't in the zoning regulations, I think that as commission members, we have limited jurisdiction, and would caution the rest of the commission about extending our jurisdiction farther than we are chartered to do so. And I have no objection to closing the meeting tonight.
Okay, thanks. The opinion. I guess I go to staff. I mean, in the past, we have asked for things. Is it an ask that we're asking for?
Yeah, you're asking, and as far as I can tell, Tony Fazone is representing, they will ask. And you'll see what response you get. So,
Okay, are we overstepping our bounds in any way by asking?
not necessarily. You have character of the area provisions in your regulations, and I'm not here to have a debate with any individual commission members about that. I think the fact that you have an applicant who's willing to look to see if there's an alternative design available, you're within your statutory timeframe. My advice to the commission and to the applicant is to allow that 2 weeks to take place and see what response you get.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
have a question. Is the Shelton Starbucks the one on Commerce Drive?
Your mute's on, Mr. Picado.
I'm not sure. I don't pay attention to the roads. I just go there.
Is it
If
a
that-
It's
a
it's
red-
up it's up by the big Y that's up there. I don't know the main. It's like a main road.
Yeah, I've just
If you Google,
It's
if
in
you
Bridgeport
Google-
Avenue, Darren.
yeah, if you Google Starbucks, you'll see they have every type of building known to man. I mean, there's every look and feel, depending on, you know, what state they're in, what area they're in. There's some nice buildings. I mean, they look sharp. Like I said, I just don't feel it's the Cheshire Village, and that's what I'd like to see down there. Whether there's a power pump station next door or not, then it'll dwarf that out, and you won't see it as much if you have a nicer looking village type building right next to that power station. I mean, I live here. I drive by there all the time. I want to see Cheshire quainter, not turned into, you know, Queen Street type look. And we have the opportunity now to do that. We're doing it on buildings now, like the gas station. You have Ricky, the buildings that he builds, they're beautiful buildings and they fit that look, and we're redeveloping that. Let's keep that feel going and not add something from back in and just try to push something through quickly. Thank you.
Okay, if Mr. Fazone is all set, Mr. Anderson, sorry.
No problem. Just share my opinion. I hear what Mr. Carderas is saying regarding overstepping our jurisdiction, but then again, I do feel as though it doesn't hurt to ask. And so if we've got the 2 weeks, we might as well hear what's being said and then go from there.
Okay, great. Thank you for the opinion. So unless there's anything further testimony from Mr. Fazone or anyone else, we will be leaving this public hearing open.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Moving on, special permit modification of Ballside Arts. We have a letter that they have asked to be on the February 8th meeting. Is that correct?
Correct, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, and then the next 5, 6, and 7, I am going to recuse myself, and Mr. Stroll will be taking care of the meeting.
Okay, Mr. Chair, before you do that, just a point of order. Just want to note that Mr. Linder did join the meeting during that discussion, so he's here.
Okay, could I get a call on that? On 5, 6,
Absolutely. Yep, I'm going to call 5, 6, and 7 at the same time. The earth removal, filling, and regrading permit application of Pabco Inc., care of Anthony J. Fazone, Esquire, Fazone, Ryan, and Matrudy, LLC, 2 Town Center, Cheshire, Connecticut, 06410. Waiver request of section 25.3.2, subsection 3, 9, and 11 under section 25.5, property located on Marion Road, Cheshire, Connecticut, 06410, as generally shown on Assessor's Map number 16, lot number 10 in an R40 zone. Next is a special permit application of Pabco Inc., care of Anthony J. Fazone, Esquire, Fazone, Ryan, and Matrudy, LLC, 2 Town Center, Cheshire, Connecticut, 06410, for regrading related to subdivision application, property located at 1415 Marion Road, Cheshire, Connecticut, 06410, is generally shown on Assessor's Map number 16, lot number 10, in an R40 zone. And lastly, the re-subdivision application of Pabco Inc., care of Anthony J. Fazone, Esquire, Fazone, Ryan, and Matrudy, LLC, 2 Town Center, Cheshire, Connecticut, 06410, for a 13-lot re-subdivision. Property located on Marion Road is generally shown on Assessor's Map number 16, lot number 10, in an R40 zone.
Thank you. Mr. Fazone.
Again, for the record, Anthony Fazone. As the call of the application reads, it's a 13-lot re-subdivision. I think it probably expedite things if I just quickly turn it right over to Darren to go through the details of the subdivision. and then I can cover some of the technical stuff.
Mr. Overton?
Sorry, I was just trying to get a drink of water. I was coughing. Again, Darren Overton from SLR Consulting, licensed professional engineer, offices at 99 Realty Drive in Cheshire, Connecticut. So what we have proposed here is a standard R40 subdivision. This is the McKinley property, which is a former tree farm. It's located on Marion Road and is surrounded entirely by R40 residential, some of which is developed under the zoning, and there's a good portion of the area around it that still remains undeveloped. There's an existing barn and farmhouse on the property. The property slopes from the west to east towards Marion Road and also slightly to the north. There's a pond in the northern middle of the site, which has some wetlands that are associated with it and a water course that drains out of it. This project was presented to the Inland Wetlands Commission. We have very little impact within the upland review area, and they made a determination that no permit was necessary based on the limited activity that was proposed within that upland review area. The site is mostly open field, which is remnants of the old tree farm. There is a wooded portion on the west side up and back, mostly beyond the gas transmission line. There is a high pressure gas transmission line. There's an easement that Bill is showing you there at the western portion of the site, which is not proposed to be developed at this time. That's the area where the high point in the site is. So the elevation change from that high point in the middle western part of the site is about 443 out to a low point near the intersection with the existing McKinley Road and Marion Road. That's elevation 177. The property is not located in an aquifer protection zone or a public water supply watershed. The property drains into the Mill River watershed. There's no FEMA regulated 100-year floodplain on the property. So what's proposed is a 13 lot standard R40 subdivision. The lots range from just over the standard size of 40,000 square feet up to that lot in the western part of the site. That's about 13 acres. We're proposing a town cul-de-sac. It's designed to the town standards and is planned to be turned over to the town, as is typical with subdivisions. That cul-de-sac road extends about 1,300 feet from the intersection with Marion Road to westerly to the cul-de-sac that you see on the screen. The proposed development will be served by public water and on-site septic systems. As far as stormwater management, we've kind of maintained the watersheds with this sloping to the north and the east. The roadway also slopes down to the east towards Marion Road. You can see on this plan, there's a stormwater detention basin that's proposed up along the frontage of Marion Road. That's essentially the lower part of the site where the water wants to drain to. We have a standard pipe and catch basin type of system designed for a 10-year storm that drains into that basin. There are sumps and a sediment chamber for water quality, a sediment forebay, and then we did some soil testing there and found that the soils are kind of a very good sand and gravel soil. So a good portion of the first flush runoff from the roadway will likely infiltrate into the ground, but we've also sized the basin for peak flow attenuation as well. So there's no increases in peak rates of runoff for up to the 100-year storm.
Yeah.
The overflow.
Darren, I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Darren, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I can't see on this map what the topography is of the road on Marion Road. What is the number on Marion Road?
So,
on the road, what's the number at the road? I know it's 280 up at the top at the cul-de-sac, but what's the road itself?
So at that intersection with Marion Road and McKinley Road, kind of the northeast part of the site, there's a couple of catch basins there, and that low point is about 177. I'm going to bring up my plan and zoom in on it here.
So we're 177 at Marion Road and 279 at the top, right?
Yes.
That's what I'm trying to say. All right, thank you. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, that's fine. So just to close out, just a few more items. The stormwater basin has an outlet control structure that overflows and ties into the existing drainage system on Marion Road. There's a 24-inch pipe that exists that goes across the road, so we're tying into that. We do have an erosion and sediment control plan and a construction sequence, again, designed to town and state standards. We did receive fire department comments on January 20th and also engineering comments on January 18th. We have not had the opportunity to consider revisions of the plans to address those comments yet, but we are considering those this week, and we expect to have those addressed for the next meeting. So with that, if there are any other further questions, I'd be happy to address them at this time.
I can't see all the commission members, so please just, okay, now I can see everybody. Okay, any questions from commission members? Any questions from, oh, Mr. Natale?
Just couldn't really read it online. Put on my glasses to read it. We have sidewalks on both sides, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Darren, could you just explain a little bit about why we have an earth removal permit application here?
I thought that'd be perfect for you to explain, Anthony.
Well, I can explain the one that there, again, it's the same situation with the excavation that is necessary to tie the new road into Marion Road. And unfortunately, that section 9 that we're asking the waiver for is doesn't say if it's 50 feet or 2 feet.
You also have a detention pond that's right up against Marion Road as well.
The couple of more things. We will have a homeowners association that'll be required to maintain the detention basin. We will be filing on the land records, and every homeowner will be required to join the homeowners association. There will be in the town, we will have exact specifications from the site development plan, and they'll be reviewed by the town engineer. They'll be incorporated into the declaration that'll be filed on the land records requiring each homeowner to contribute to the maintenance. And as required by the town, if the homeowners association does not take care of the detention basin, the town has the right to do the work and to actually file a notice on the homeowners who's not contributing on the land records with that property that there are monies due the town for the maintenance of the detention basin. We've been to wetlands. They've determined that there's no wetlands permit required. Mr. Volker had asked me to look into McKinley Road that's shown on the some of the plans. It's the right of way to two houses that are to the north of the subdivision, and that currently exists. It dates back to 1949. There is a map on file. The easement is 50 feet wide, and it'll be actually on, I don't have the map in front of me, but the lot that's immediately adjacent to the detention basin, the easement that exists will go over that property, that lot, for ingress and egress. I keep wanting to point to the screen, but it doesn't do any good, but it's the area, it's the area of the homeowner's property there where it says McKinley Road, does it say private?
Yes, right there,
so-
McKinley Road, yep.
Yeah, so that's where we'll maintain the 50-foot width and not proposing, the easement that they have requires that they maintain the road, their access to their properties.
Okay. Is that how the catch basin will be serviced to through that easement, or is it going to be serviced through the main road?
I don't know what the elevations are. Darren, where would you think they'd be maintained? Access for them to the detention basin for maintenance.
Sorry for the delay in unmuting. There's an access drive that's proposed coming off of the new roadway, right near where the drainage discharge is into the basin from the new roadway. Yes, that location. And Commissioner Strollo, just to clarify, at the intersection with Marion Road, our proposed intersection, we're about elevation of 182 there. So from McKinley Road, comes up from about 177, rises up to about 182 at our proposed intersection.
Oh, so it dips at the bottom?
So along Marion Road, along the frontage, right at the intersection with McKinley, those pair of catch basins is kind of a low point.
Okay.
And Marion Road rises up in both directions, north and south from there. So the road actually rises up about 4 feet. Well, 5 feet, 177 to about 182 at our intersection.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that information. Any other commission members have any questions? And I can't see you.
Yes.
Mr. Mercado.
That leftover lot behind the gas main there, is that landlocked, or is that that's possible could get access?
No,
Development.
it's all part of one lot. It's one great big lot, Rob. Not landlocked, it's a big lot.
But is there any way to get back there to do any building in the future?
Very hard to do because of the topography back there.
Okay.
I don't want to say anything's impossible, but they're not, it's a permanent, they're showing it as a dead end cul-de-sac. They're not showing it as a temporary right of way.
Yep.
To go any further up the hill. And like I said, the topography back there is very difficult. The easement.
You have to go through a pond.
The easement creates another impairment, so very difficult. They're not laying it out as if it's going to be developed at any time in the future. So.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
Anyone else? Anyone from the public wishing to make any comments on this?
There's no public comments.
No public comments?
We have nothing, Sean, and I'm going to wait until the next meeting since you're going to continue this hearing. Because they got to do comments and review the discussions with the engineering department and so forth. So we're going to wait to read in whatever we have left over at that time. So.
I just have a quick question too, Darren. There's like in the key on the location map, it almost like there's like a chunk in the middle out, and that is the what was the name, like Hedden?
Yeah, that's an existing single-family home back there, Sean, and they're leaving a right-of-way area for them to have access from the road.
And that's going to be another driveway off of the cul-de-sac.
Yeah, they're going to have 14 driveways total off of this cul-de-sac, 13 new ones, and one for the existing homeowner.
And that's HEDDEN, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was trying to understand how that, because the on the map it really doesn't show a good picture of it.
Well, they've got an access way. Right now, they have an access way all the way out to Marion Road across the property. Okay.
Yeah, they come on McKinley
Yeah,
Drive.
yeah, they have that now, and their access will be now off the road. and their driveway will come off the road. So, and their rights will be protected through construction. We've already had conversations with them about this, with the applicants.
In this cul-de-sac, what is the maximum number of lots that could be off the
We have
cul-de-sac?
that in the staff report. They are under, it's 17, I believe, and they have now
Okay.
14. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they meet those criteria. It's in the staff report. It's from the subdivision regulations.
Yeah, I was trying to remember if it was 16 or 17. Okay. All right. No one else has any other questions? Anyone else have any questions?
Bill,
Mr.
you're saying there are outstanding engineering comments?
That's correct. We don't have
Okay.
any revisions or any responses to the engineering comments yet, Anthony.
Okay, thank you.
If there's no questions right now, we're gonna keep it open, and then we'll move on and we'll address this. When's the next public hearing meeting?
February 8th.
February 8th. Okay, we'll push it on to February 8th. We're all set? Okay,
We are.
Ethan, come on back.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. I was going to take 8, 9, 10, and 11 all together. Can we hear the call for that, please, Mr. Natale?
Let me get a drink of water first. Okay. The modification of the special development plan within the interchange SDD zone of Miller Napolitano Wolf LLC and TriStar Development LLC, care of Anthony J. Fazone Esquire, Fazone Ryan and Machuti, 2 Town Center, Cheshire, Connecticut, 06410, to revise the special development plan to show less public road and lots reduced to 7 and revised uses, property located at 1953, 2037, and 2061 Highland Avenue. I-691 and Dickerman Road is generally shown on assessor's map number 4, lot number 6, 13, and 4, and map B3, lot number 51 in the ICSDD Interchange Special Development District. Next, the earth removal, filling, and regrading permit application of Miller Napolitano Wolf LLC and TriStar Development LLC, care of Anthony J. Fazone Esquire, Fazone Ryan and Machuti LLC, 2 Town Center, Cheshire, Connecticut, 06410. Waiver request of section 25.3.2, subsection 3, 9, and 11 under section 25.5. Property located at 1953, 2037, 2061 Highland Avenue. Lot B is I-691 Dickerman Road, as generally shown on assessor's map number 4, lots number 6, 13, and 4, and map B3, lot number 51 in the Interchange Special Development District. The next, the special permit application of Miller Napolitano Wolf LLC and TriStar Development LLC, care of Anthony J. Fazone Esquire, Fazone Ryan and Machuti LLC, 2 Town Center, Cheshire, Connecticut, 06410, for earth removal, filling, or regrading in conjunction with the re-subdivision application of TriStar Development LLC and Miller Napolitano Wolf Inc., property located at 1953, 2037, and 2061 Highland Avenue, and lot B, I-691 Dickerman Road is generally shown on assessor's maps number 4, lot number 6, 13, and 4, and map 3, lot number 51 in the Interchange Special Development District. And lastly, the subdivision application of Miller Napolitano Wolf LLC and TriStar Development LLC, care of Anthony J. Fazone Esquire, Fazone Ryan and Machuti LLC, 2 Town Center, Cheshire, Connecticut, 06410, for a 7-lot re-subdivision, property located at 1953, 2037, and 2061 Highland Avenue. Second lot, I-691 Dickerman Road, is generally shown on assessor's maps number 4, lot number 6, 13, and 4, and map 3, lot number 51 in the Interchange Special Development District.
Chairman, if I may briefly, this application is currently also before the Inland Wetlands Commission, and you're going to hear it tonight. You're going to keep the hearing open because the Wetlands Commission has not concluded their business with it yet. So,
Okay, thank you. And thank you, Mr. Natale. Mr. Fazone, I assume you're taking this?
I am, and we have, John Malone has now entered the building, and I don't know how he and Darren intend to split up the presentation, or if John's going to do it all, but I'll turn it over to them to talk about the subdivision. It's really, the two basic parts of this are the subdivision itself and the special development plan. The earth removal is for the same reasons as we've expressed before. There's no exemption under the regulation for subdivisions. And they'll certainly be moving some dirt around to do the roads and because of the topography. But John, you and Darren can go ahead, whichever you want to start with. First, the subdivision might be easiest, but
Yeah.
I'll get it started. Darren was going to stay. This is John Mylone from SLR. I'll get it started. And Darren was going to stay on in case you actually had a question that required intelligence. So, so thanks, Darren, for hanging on. So Bill, thank you. So if you recall, and maybe some of the commission members may, this is a fairly large site. It's about 100+ acres. And half of the property is about on the east side of the 10 Mile River, and half the property and fronts on Route 10. And half the property is on the west side of the 10 Mile River and fronts on Dickerman Road. Previously, we had a subdivision which included the roadway that you see here that enters the property just north of 691, opposite the on-off ramps from 691, and extends westerly into the property of about just a little under 1,000 feet. And that's a proposed roadway cul-de-sac. And previously we had a road that extended from that, kind of connecting in the middle of that length and running northerly, and then coming back out to Route 10 in the northeastern portion of the property. Along that east side of the 10 Mile River, we had 7 lots. And then on the west side of the 10 Mile River, we had 1 additional lot. So there were 8 lots in total. What's proposed now is essentially the elimination of that section of public roadway that extends northerly from that cul-de-sac that extends into the site back to Route 10, and just the 1 section of roadway coming in, and 1 large lot in the northeastern portion of the property results. So we now have 6 lots on the east side of the 10 Mile River and 1 lot, a total of 7 lots. That's essentially the major change. We will still have, as you'll see from the special development plan, a proposed intersection on further up where the proposed roadway was going to intersection, but that would be an intersection into a development parcel. They would be connected via a private roadway together. So the traffic circulation will remain pretty much the same, but we eliminate the need for a public roadway with this modified special development plan. There are 2 other changes with the proposed subdivision, which are worth noting. One is that we originally had a pump station serving this entire property, and in fact, a pump station, sanitary sewer pump station, not only serving this entire property, but also all the properties that are within the town of Cheshire on either side of Route 10, north of 691, and on the west side of Dickerman Road, so that this entire portion of the town would be able to be serviced by sanitary sewers. That pump station was originally located in the central portion of the site, in the north side of the site near the Southington border. Now we're proposing to locate it in the southwestern portion of the site along Dickerman Road near I-691. There's a couple advantages to doing that, but essentially it's more advantageous for the town because it's right near an existing public road. There's a lot less need for force main at that location because there would be a force main extending from there southerly down Dickerman Road, eventually connecting to the town's pump station on West Johnson Avenue. And so that provides some value. Along with that, we're proposed before about 11-acre parcel of open space on the western portion of the site, which is, and thank you, Bill. Bill's pointing to it now. So the pump station would be in that crosshatched area in the lower portion over there, and the rest of that area would be open space ideally in favor of the town. That would provide some level of protection for the north side of the 10 Mile River floodplain, and also provide public access into the property along that corridor. The trail system that was going to extend through the site out to Dickerman Road would be located primarily within that open space parcel. So that's another advantage of that. So those are the changes in the subdivision from the previous application.
I would just point out that the previous application, I don't know if John mentioned it, had 8 lots. And then he did mention that the current application is for 7 lots.
That's correct. If I didn't say that, that's correct. Thank you, Anthony.
John, I had a question. Does the second entrance still remain on lot 5, I believe that is?
Yeah, there will be a second entrance there. And when we get to the special development plan, I can show you how that's going to work.
Okay, so essentially you're just eliminating a public road that goes
Yes.
from,
Exactly, that's
that
correct.
goes north to south. That public road will be taken out,
Yes,
and you're losing a quadrant or
yes,
a lot.
yes.
Okay. Any commission members? Any questions?
Yes.
Mr. Metallic.
So John, I looked at the plans from last time that we approved it, and it looks pretty similar, like I said, besides the road. Are all the sidewalks, all the walkways, everything else? I know that you mentioned in the open space is going to be one, but everything else is the same as last time we looked at this.
Yes.
Okay, looks like it looks like that on the photos. I just want to make sure. Okay, good, thanks.
Chairman,
Mr. Brocato.
that's also including all the signage. We talked about the size of the sign. We went lower and longer and took the height down. That's all staying the same?
Yes, that's correct. Not proposing any changes from anything previously that was approved, other than the elimination of that roadway, the lot, and the open space and the relocation.
Right, thank you.
Any other commission members with questions? What lot was essentially removed? Did you just make one big lot out of lot 5? Is that what the lot?
Essentially, yeah, if you just picture that, the road extended through there, so it was the right side of the road and the left side of the road, which were 2 lots. Now, because there's no road in the middle of the lot.
Okay. All right, Anthony, do you have anything further to keep going?
We move on to the special development plan, because they are really integrated and go hand in hand with one another.
Okay.
John, were you going to address that?
Yep. Bill, are you able to put that one up as well, Bill, or?
See it? Here's the, can you see that one? That's the original one.
I don't see it on mine.
Oh, hold on. Let's see what I can do here. Here's the original one. You can see that one?
Yes.
That one was the one that we most recently approved, okay? You
Okay.
can see the road here. There was the road coming in here, and then there was the road out to the street up here, okay?
Correct.
All right, anybody have any questions on that while John's here? I can get the next one, but I want to do them one at a time. No, okay.
This is the one that was approved already, right?
Yeah, can you see this
want-
one? This is the more recent one, yes?
Yeah, I think we'd rather hear about this one. We know
Fine.
about
Yeah,
this one.
here you go.
So on this plan, Bill, is there any way to move it over a little so we could show where it goes? Or you have
Not
to-
really, John, this is my
That's
limits of my technology here, so.
It's a lot more than I could do. So essentially, as you can see, there's very little change in the lower road, which coming in, there's still the development on either side of that road and on the end of that road, which is a combination of hotel, various commercial uses, some multifamily residential use. But then in the northeastern portion of the site where the road does not extend through anymore, there's a larger commercial use with a few more outbuildings and a few more square footage of commercial. The roadway will access, there will be a primary access direct out to Route 10 generally at the location where the original roadway entered Route 10, and the configuration, geometry, and all those things will be very similar. To still have probably 2 lanes out, 1 lane in. There will be a signal there. It's slightly further south than the original roadway entered Route 10, because you can see that originally we entered at the northern portion of the property. Now we're entering a couple of 100 feet south of that. That actually provides some benefit, because the property on the east side of Route 10, the location opposite that is more central to that large piece that the state owns that may be developed in the future. So we think that's an advantage. And then, of course, you will be able to get access through that commercial piece back to the main road. So in terms of emergency access, ease of access, and just general use of the property, it will be the same. It just won't be via a public road. It'll be via a private driveway connecting to a larger parking area. And then there's still a large residential use on the western side of the site, pump station now being located in that southwest corner. And the open space in the center of the property remains the same in terms of the undeveloped land, although there'll be some dedicated open space proposed now. Other than that, the master plan or the special development plan is the same. There's a few less age-restricted housing units. Some of those are converted to market rate, and there's a little more commercial square footage. Otherwise, it's not really dramatically different.
Reverse. Reuse.
Mr. Dawson, do you have a question?
No, I'm talking to myself. I'm looking at the maps and seeing the reverse and so forth, what's going on. I'm gonna shut my mic off. I apologize, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, no, that's okay. Just wanted to make sure. Any questions on what we just heard from Mr. Malone? Okay, everyone's pretty quiet on this. Attorney Fazzone, do you have more to add to any of this?
Couple points of clarification, maybe addressing Mr. Bricato's question. This property is actually zoned an interchange special development district. And that was done at the beginning, I think, going back probably 2018. And the special development plan has what Mr. Bricato was referring to as special regulations. And then this is a concept plan. We have to come back. Any project has to come back to the commission for a specific project application. And the site is kind of broken into different segments. I believe there was a John, was the phasing part of this submitted? The area, different areas?
We did submit the areas. They weren't so much phasing as they were just use areas. But yes, there was a submission of the phasing. I don't have that in front of me.
I just wanted to make a clarification that kind of just enforce what you said. The phasing is not submitted as a chronology, but just different types of use. And if you were to see where the phasings are marked out, the area, so there's a concentration of the residential area on the west side of the river is one of the areas, where the commercial is another, and then a third down where the age restricted housing or those other uses are. But I just want to make sure and emphasize that they're not intended to be chronologically done. And most likely, the first phase will have to be related anyway to support the building of the sewer system. And that's all that I had, Earl, Jay. Mr. Kirk.
Well, when you talk about the phase part of it, let's just take the east side of the river right now. We're talking like the two entrances and ways to ingress and egress. Would both of those be done? I mean, you talk about in a phase. Say you did the big commercial part first, and only did an entrance that is on the north side of the property. I mean, that might be a problem, if you didn't.
Well,
we could have a big,
the road would have to be built in the access.
so okay, so that would be something that would
Yeah,
go.
that would probably be done all together, to make one big unit. But that might be done, after the age restricted.
We would expect that DOT would probably make them do that, EJ, to put the road in first. So
Okay.
I wouldn't worry too much about the sequence of anything here, guys. It's really going to be all according to market. So
Yeah, I'm not-
likely so.
Against any of that, and I understand all that part, but I'd hate
Yeah.
to see one thing just built and then not
Yeah.
have the proper access in and out the way it was designed for. And
Yeah.
then, but
I would
it-
say the scale of that facility on the north side, it's substantial commercial development there. It's going to need signalization. They would build a road because once that's constructed, other things would follow depending on the tenant mix. But clearly, there's certain tenants, if they could get them in there, would command multiple trips and would also generate more interest in the other parcels. So they would build the road and then have the signalized intersection there.
And I only question it because, before we had the roads, they'd have to build a road on whatever.
That's correct.
They did.
Yeah.
So now
Yeah.
you're getting rid of that public road that connects the two parcels. And I would just like to make sure, I love the whole thing. I just would like to make sure that, both entrances in and out were constructed at the same time. Mr. Mercado.
So if I remember correctly, back when we talked phasing things, we wanted to have a balance. We wanted to have some of that, we'll call it commercial side and the housing side, that we had that nice balance. So we had some tax coming in on the commercial to outweigh the people in the drain on the town that's going to come in on a huge housing complex like that. So I know we did talk about phasing and how the commission would like to see a mix, do some commercial, do some residential, not just blow it all out in one big residential first, to see that. I know in the rules that we set in the special district, we did put up balloons. I had Paul put up balloons to see how high those tall signs were. That's the reason I believe in those rules. I'd have to go back and look that we lowered it so they weren't like 65 feet tall or 55 feet, whatever they were, unless they were a certain distance back from Route 10. So we can go back and look at that. I just was seeing if you guys changed that anywhere. I wasn't sure.
There's been no change to those regulations.
Okay, any commission members with questions? Okay, Mr. Pizzone, did you have anything else to bring before us tonight on this?
I do not have anything further unless John does.
No, Anthony, I'm all set. And the commission will see any of the uses in a special development, special permit format. So they'll have plenty of opportunity to review specifics of each of these parcels. And if there's concerns about secondary access, things like that, those will all have to be addressed to your satisfaction. So.
Okay, and again, this is being held open, but any public comment come in on this application?
No public comments.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I have a couple of comments, one from Regional Water and one from the Cheshire Fire Department. I'd like to read into the
Could you
record.
read
Regional Water Authority dated January 21st, 2021. We have reviewed the above reference application. A portion of the southeast corner of the property is within the North Cheshire Aquifer Protection Area. Majority of the property is outside the RWA Public Water Supply watershed and aquifer areas. The project involves a mixed-use development project consisting of various residential development, commercial areas, and open space. The southeast portion of Lot 1 is within the North Cheshire Aquifer Protection Area. The development of each lot will require planning and zoning approval. The portion of Lot 1 outside the APA does not have any development restrictions other than the proposed zoning restriction for the interchange special development district. The portion of Lot 1 within the APA would have to comply with the development restrictions of the APA. We have no objection to the re-subdivision application. Thank you for the opportunity to comment on this application. If you have any questions, please call me at 203-401-2741. Sincerely, Ron Walters, Senior Environmental Analyst, Regional Water Authority. Fire Department comments, Mr. Chairman, I'm just going to qualify. They're specifically, but they're specific to various things that you would typically see the fire department comment on, but they're meant to be basically guidelines that will have to be reviewed and adhered to with respect to individual special permit applications. This is dated January 21st, 2021 from Jack Kasner, Chief, and Mike Kozlowski, Deputy Fire Marshal. The fire department has reviewed the above application for the planning and zoning process. We recommend the following comments and stipulations. If this application is approved, code compliance plans must be submitted to the building office and fire marshal's office prior to construction. 1, fire department connections will need to be within the appropriate working distance of a fire hydrant. 2, final layout of the water main system and fire hydrants will need to be approved by the fire chief prior to installation. Water mains are required along the entire frontage of the project. We will be strategically locating fire hydrants on the interior roadways. 3, the project will need to develop a fire alarm system that covers each building. Final design to be approved by the fire chief. 4, the fire department utilizes a traffic light preemption system known as Opticon to safely pass emergency vehicles through an intersection. This system will need to be installed from the intersection of West Johnson Avenue through the project area. 5, fire lanes will be required. The fire department will need to approve signage and pavement marking. 6, the applicant will work with the fire department on a numbering system for each building to expedite emergency responses to these buildings. 7, the applicant will call for a field test with fire department apparatus on compacted subbase of the internal roadways prior to first course of bituminous being put down. And 8, the islands in the main entrance will need to be designed so that they do not slow emergency response. Final dimensions of the islands may need to be reduced depending on the field test. Those are their comments, Mr. Chairman. None others.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Mr. Villone, all set for the evening?
Yes.
Okay, commission members, one last time, anything before we get to the next one? Okay, so we'll be leaving that public hearing open, and I will entertain a motion to adjourn the public hearing.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Talley, seconded by
Mr. Stroller.
Mr. Brocato. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, I'd like to call to order the regular meeting for Monday, planning and zoning regular meeting for Monday, January 25th, 2021. Can I get a motion to accept the minutes of the public hearing and special meeting from January 11th, 2021?
Motion to approve the minutes from both meetings.
Moved by Mr. Natale.
Yeah.
Seconded by Mr. Stroller. Was that you?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody, corrections, comments, anything on the minutes? Mr. Tedesco.
Yes, just with respect to the minutes of the public meeting, I think what I had said was that I had reported on the development on South Main Street at another meeting, but nothing was said at that meeting, which would prevent me from voting on it. I just wanted to clarify how it was phrased in the minutes.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions on the minutes? So we had two. Do we have two or just one out on this? I believe we just have Mr. Bowman not here, right?
Mr. Bowman's not here and Mr. Selmont's not here.
Mr. Selmont, yeah, but he's an alternate. So
Right, Mr. Bowman, right.
Were you both here, Ms. Downs, Ms. Anderson, Mr. Anderson? Were you both here? All right, so we'll take Ms. Downs. We'll be voting on this this motion. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, under communications, we all got in our packet the conflict of interest. We get it every year. I assume there's no reason other than the fact just to study up on it. Is that correct, Mr. Walker?
Yeah, if I may, if anybody has any conflicts of interest in accordance with the town ordinance, you do need to identify those and send them in. So,
Okay. Under unfinished business, not much to do. 1, 2, 3, 4.
we have nothing, Mr. Chairman. Everything is on
Wait.
hold and no new applications. The good news is.
Wow, nothing new, huh?
We do have one item, Mr. Chairman. It's a release for a maintenance bond.
Crestwood.
Railcrest Estates, Crestwood Drive, which the engineering department has consented that can be released, and I have a motion to that effect.
May we hear that, please?
Maintenance bond release, Railcrest Estates, Crestwood Drive, that in accordance with the memorandum for the engineering department, January 15, 2021, the Planning and Zoning Commission authorized the release of the maintenance bond for Railcrest Estates, Crestwood Drive.
We want to move the wording.
Move staff wording.
Move staff wording.
Seconded by Mr. Dawson. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, and then we'll have Mr. Anderson voting in place of Mr. Bowman on this one. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Anything else to come before us tonight?
No, Mr. Chairman, no new business.
Okay, with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn our
So
regular meeting.
moved.
Moved by Mr. Kaderis,
Second.
Second.
by Mr. Dawson. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Good night, all.
Have a